The distress beacon had been transmitting for 72 hours before Kiza finally allowed herself to believe help might actually come. She stood on the observation deck of the Valorian mining station, watching the skeletal remains of their defense grid drift past the viewport like metallic ghosts. The Kryn raiders had done their job well. 3 ships, surgical strikes, and they'd left the station crippled but intact. A message, clearly. Next time they wouldn't be so merciful. "Commander, we're receiving a response," her communications officer called out, his scaled head tilting in that peculiar Valorian expression of surprise. "It's from Earth." Kiza's 4 eyes narrowed. Earth. The newcomers, the species that had joined the Galactic Coalition only 15 cycles ago, still stumbling through diplomatic protocols and mispronouncing half the member species' names. What could they possibly offer? "Put it through," she said, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a human male with an easy smile and startlingly blue eyes. He wore a casual uniform that looked more appropriate for a recreational vessel than a military response team. "Valorian Station, this is Lieutenant Nick Reeves of the Earth Concordat Rapid Response Division. We received your distress call and we're en route to your position. ETA 6 hours. Hang tight. 6 hours." Kiza felt her chest plates flutter in relief, though she kept her voice professional. "Lieutenant Reeves, we appreciate the response, but we should clarify. We require extensive repairs to our defense systems, structural reinforcement to decks 7 through 12, and restoration of our primary power coupling. Do you have the necessary equipment and expertise?" Nick's grin widened. "Ma'am, you asked for repairs. We're bringing upgrades." The next 6 hours passed in a blur of anxious preparation. Kiza coordinated her skeleton crew, trying to prepare the station for whatever limited assistance Earth could provide. She'd reviewed the Coalition database entries on humanity, a species barely 2 centuries into their industrial space age, still using primitive fusion drives and only recently mastering basic energy shielding. Enthusiastic, certainly. Capable. That remained to be seen. When the human fleet dropped out of FTL, Kiza's translator actually glitched trying to process her involuntary sound of shock. There were 12 ships. 12. Not the single repair vessel she'd expected, but a full battle group led by 3 heavy cruisers, their hulls bristling with weapon emplacements that her tactical systems couldn't fully categorize. Flanking them were 7 support craft and 2 massive engineering vessels that looked like mobile shipyards, and at the center, inexplicably, was what appeared to be a civilian transport trailing a cargo train of supply pods. "Valorian Station, this is Nick again. We're coming alongside. Hope you've got docking clearance for about 200 personnel and roughly 4,000 tons of equipment." 4,000 tons. For a repair mission. Kiza's translator was working overtime now. The first shuttle to dock carried Nick himself, along with a team of engineers wearing exosuits covered in tools, patches, and what appeared to be humorous slogans in Earth languages. Nick bounded off the ramp with the kind of energy that made Kiza exhausted just watching him. "Commander Kiza, pleasure to meet you in person," he said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. When she carefully placed her manipulator claw in his palm, he shook it with surprising gentleness. "Sorry about the wait. We had to grab some extra supplies. Coffee emergency. Coffee?" Kiza's translator helpfully provided the context, a human stimulant beverage. "Yeah, can't do proper engineering without proper coffee. Don't worry, we brought enough to share. Now let's see what we're working with." What followed was the most surreal 36 hours of Kiza's military career. The humans didn't repair the defense grid. They replaced it entirely with a system that operated on principles Kiza's top technicians were still trying to understand. Something about layered plasma matrices and adaptive threat response. When she questioned whether it was necessary, Nick just pointed at the tactical display showing Kryn patrol routes. "They hit you once. They'll hit you again," he said, his casual tone gone, replaced by something harder. "Humans don't do half measures when it comes to protection." The structural damage to decks 7 through 12? The human engineers brought in prefabricated reinforcement panels, made from a composite material that was somehow both lighter and stronger than Valorian military-grade hull plating. They worked in rotating shifts, never seeming to sleep, sustained by the mysterious coffee and an inexplicable enthusiasm for making things better than factory spec. One engineer, A woman named Chen actually apologized to Kiza for only being able to improve structural integrity by 300%. We're limited by your existing framework, she explained. If we'd had another week, we could have pushed it to 450. But it was the civilian transport that truly baffled Kiza. She found Nick overseeing its unloading on day 2, watching as crate after crate of supplies floated into the station's cargo bays. Lieutenant, what is all this? Nick consulted his datapad. Well, you mentioned in your distress call that you were low on medical supplies, so we brought a full field hospital setup. Food synthesizers looked pretty dated in your specs, so we're upgrading those. Galaxy's too big for bad food, Commander. Entertainment systems, recreational equipment, improved crew quarters, expanded hydroponics, and about 6 months' worth of various supplies. We didn't request any of this. No, Nick agreed, but you needed it. Look, Commander, we read the reports. Your people have been holding this mining operation together with determination and not much else for 2 years. The coalition stretched you thin. We figured if we're here anyway, might as well make sure you're actually comfortable. Kiza felt something in her chest cavity that her species associated with profound gratitude. Lieutenant, this is far beyond our contract specifications. The resource allocation alone. Resource allocation. Nick's laugh was short and sharp. Commander, Earth's economy is post-scarcity. We have more manufacturing capacity than we know what to do with. The only thing we're short on is people to help, and trust me, that's why we're here. The coalition gave us a chance when we were new. Time to pay it forward. On the 36th hour, Kiza stood again on the observation deck, but this time Nick stood beside her. The station hummed with new power, its systems running at efficiency levels Kiza had never seen. The defense grid glowed in overlapping patterns of protection. Her crew, many of whom she'd watched slowly wearing down under the strain, now moved with renewed energy, partly from improved conditions, partly from the infectious human optimism. The Kryn will come back, Kiza said quietly. Yeah, Nick replied, sipping from his insulated container of coffee. We know. They won't expect this level of defense. Nope. They certainly won't expect... Kiza gestured at the viewport, where 3 human heavy cruisers maintained patrol patterns around the station. Nick's easy smile returned. Commander, here's the thing about humans. We're pack animals, tribal. When someone asks us for help, we don't just send a repair crew. We send family. And when family is threatened, we respond accordingly. Your battle group is remaining? Rotation shifts, but yeah, there'll always be Earth ships in this sector now. Consider it part of the upgrade package. He raised his coffee in a mock salute. Besides, your mining operation produces duratanium. We need that for the new orbital shipyards we're building at Luna. Mutually beneficial arrangement. Kiza's translator picked up the unspoken message clearly enough. The humans weren't just protecting the station out of altruism. They were establishing presence, building networks, turning simple repair missions into long-term partnerships. It was brilliant. It was generous. It was strategic. It was, Kiza realized, very human. 2 weeks later, when the Kryn did return with 5 ships expecting an easy target, they found a station with military-grade defenses and 3 human cruisers who very politely suggested they choose a different career path. The Kryn chose to leave, and Kiza, watching them flee while drinking her first cup of properly brewed human coffee, decided that having Earth as an ally was perhaps the best upgrade the galaxy had received in centuries. Nick had been right about one thing. It was impossible to do proper engineering without proper coffee.